Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about thought leadership. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what does exhibiting thought leadership mean for a software engineering leader? Well, you're gonna have to show people that you understand the problems that they have to a point where you can show them a method of approaching that problem that makes it a non-problem anymore. It becomes almost, as I like to say, if you do your job really, really well as a software engineer, coding becomes boring. That's when you do it really well. And the way that you sort of handle that is enormously complicated. I would say it requires a lot of experience. One part is that you have to face this problem like 100 times, and then you have to come up with an idea that feels accessible to other people. It's sort of, how do I put an example of thought leadership would have been how you design something like these mainstream tools we use today, like say Kubernetes as an example. That is like the ideas that Kubernetes encapsulates. I mean, the technology has been there for quite some time. It's just nobody's ever used it in this way before. But once people understood the benefits of using, basically resource groups and namespaces instead of using full VMs for everything, it became basically revolutionized the way we did things. It's the same thing with Docker and so forth. In the front end, SPA frameworks and so forth. These sorts of ideas, they are revolutionary in their own way, because nobody has ever really thought about doing things in that way before, even though people have tried to recreate it's not like these ideas were never on the map, but nobody could really make it work. And if you're going to prove to other developers, as I like to say, if you're going to show, you shouldn't have to, the king shouldn't have to explain why the king has the job, is what I like to say, because it should be completely obvious to everybody why you are where you are, like why we should listen to you, yes or no. That I actually hate that credibility thing that people do, like, oh, you should listen to me because I worked for this and that company for so long. I can go, yeah, sure, you can work for any company. I don't care which company you have worked for. If you have bad ideas or if you don't make a valuable proposition, then I'm still not going to listen to you. This is one of the reasons why I don't really go to meetups anymore, because I don't even know, like, this person, like the title of the only thing I have to go on is the title and the talk, and maybe it's, but I've seen this many times before, from people from like the highest, most prestigious companies basically go up on stage and just go, yeah, this was a complete waste of time for me. And I mean, it's not their fault, it's just that like they have nothing to show here, in my opinion. So for me, it's more valuable, if you're going to be a thought leader, to show practical examples of true thought leadership. Because it's not thought leadership, in my opinion, to talk about yet again how mob coding can change everything. Because the reality is that if it's not accessible to people, your idea will never be popularized. And that's not, you can call that thought leadership if you want, but thought leadership, in my opinion at the very least, is that you can show people a direction that helps them solve real world problems, that actually makes them into more productive versions of themselves. And that is a very different thing from, just sharing ideas on something, because it has to be concrete enough that you can do something with it. Now, when you try to do this sort of stuff, I've always found it to be very useful to make proof of concepts. Like, you don't have to, it's not like you have to create a framework for people to use right off the bat. It's more about showing them an approach to doing software development. An example would be, you can show them how to, let's say that they have something that they find difficult to deal with. Show them how to make, like, the concept at the level where they know, okay, this is the idea. Well, that's pretty cool. I could actually go and build this myself. That shows true thought leadership. You have actually worked out a proof of concept to the level where you might not have a third-party product that you can just consume directly. You don't have to, but they have a clear enough picture of the idea that they could go and build it themselves. this is like, it's sort of the level where, you know, some people keep the copyright and like want to keep their intellectual property secret for this exact reason, because if it's really well done, someone can come and steal it. At that level, if you have established your ideas at that level, then in my opinion, then you're engaging in true thought leadership, because that means that this is value. This shows the value at the level where someone can go, yeah, I can really see why this is working. And to me, that's the one part of it. But the other part is, of course, okay, well, what problem are you solving? Because everybody can write a slightly nicer way of, I don't know, slightly nicer way of designing a test, slightly nicer way of, or I guess, rehashing a way of doing something with, you know, this establishing backend endpoints or logging or something like that. There are many ways you can do things. I'm not going to try to reduce anything of this down, you know, minimize it in any way. But the ideas that I think show true thought leadership is, as I said, when you show that you have a good idea for a solution, an almost inspiring idea to a problem that is a constant and almost common pain for everybody. Examples would be, how do you deal with inconsistent database states? How do you scale, you know, how do you scale a front-end project or something like that? How do you handle effective deployment strategies? How do you handle request tracing in a distributed system, session management, like single sign-ons between multiple systems, etc., etc. There are tons of these very difficult problems that it's not a straightforward solution for a lot of people. But if you can show that you have thought of a really cool way of solving that problem that feels accessible to people, that's real genius to me. When you take something that seems almost impossible for most people and convert it into a problem that feels almost like, yeah, this is going to solve that issue. That is, to me, real thought leadership. So what I want you to take away from this is that I think that a person or a software engineering leader shows through true thought leadership when they can show in a fairly concrete and easy to implement way how to solve issues that are very complicated for most teams. It's a pain that most people struggle with, and to give them an approach of dealing with that problem that makes it feel almost silly. It's almost where it gets to a point where it's so obvious that you should be doing this that you don't even think about that this used to be a problem. An example would be the guy who invented MVC. Like that architecture is so embedded into basically every web developer on the planet that they don't even think about that there was a time before we had that concept. Like, this idea was like, there was nothing, nobody thought about it. To me, that is true thought leadership, genius level things, where you take something that is very abstract, very difficult at this time, and create a very nice, well-rounded solution that feels approachable to people who are, or quote-unquote, lesser minds, because let's just admit that some people are really, really smart. And the problem usually is that if you can only make something work if someone is really, really smart, then it's not going to scale ever, because then you need to, that's not going to work. But if a really, really smart person can dumb it down for us normal mortals into something that really makes sense, that is, to me, true thought leadership. Have a great day.